Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Leo Wilhelmi. I'm the managing director of the Buchinger Wilhelmi Clinic in Germany. Today I'm here with Dr. Francoise Wilhelmi de Toledo, who is the scientific director of our clinics and also my mother. Today we're going to cover a topic that is physical activity and fasting. Today, fasting is being linked to several videos, articles, programs that link physical activity and fasting. And we get a lot of questions linked to this question. We have a fitness center also in our clinic. We have sports teachers and instructors. We have group activities. And the question is, how much activity is good for you in fasting, and how does the body react to physical activity? So I'm very happy to ask this question now to you. So let's start maybe about a few words about the origins of our program and what our founder, my great-grandfather Otto Buchinger, said about that.
Yes, it's a good way to start maybe, because he was a clinician, he was observing, and he had this experience of self-healing from a very severe form of polyarthritis. So he knows exactly what does good or not. And in our clinics, like you said, the Buchinger Wilhelmi fasting program has been developed out of this original way of fasting through 4 generations now of members of the family and professionals. So the question of exercise was from the beginning extremely important. Otto Buchinger said fasting and walking in nature. He was going with his little dog, Max, and 2 or 3 hours every day anyway, of if he was fasting or if he was not fasting. We will see that physical activity works in synergy with fasting. There are some fasting schools who don't recommend exercise, especially the water fasting schools, natural hygiene. But I think for our time, it's better to do it the way we do it, with giving a little bit of juices and broths, a little bit of honey, so helping the metabolism to stay on a normal glycemic level and being able to exercise.
Maybe you can say a few words about, if we talk about physical activity and fasting, maybe we have to first define the fasting that we use.
Yes, we do this long-term fasting, mainly 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days or more, always followed by at least 4 days of regeneration phase, where you reintroduce the food slowly. This has also a lot of effects. And all this fasting is stimulated by exercise, and we'll see the details now.
So we have an episode covering this where we talk about the different terminology of fasting. So if you're interested in that, you can always look at the other episodes. So we're talking about fasting. The way we understand it is periodic fasting.
Long-term fasting, periodically repeated, because a lot of people come every year, for instance, and then you have both. When we consider the animals, you have animals in nature that fast during the time they do the migration. This is the migrating birds. They are high level athletes. They do incredible exercise permanently during
and fast
at the same time,
so
without
the birds
drinking,
that
without
go to
eating.
the warmer climate,
exactly,
they travel hundreds and thousands of kilometers fasting with a very high activity. Very interesting.
At the other end, you have the bears and all these animals who hibernate in order to keep their energy. They just sleep, and they fall in a sort of torpor, which spares the calories. Animals are normal, not like humans. Humans want to lose maximum of weight, but animals know they need to keep their reserve if the winter is long, for instance.
So there's two: the ones that are very active and fast, and the ones that are very inactive. Most of the time they sleep.
Exactly. And both survive wonderfully. Well, survive thanks to these strategies.
So could you say then there's people who tend to be like bears and some that tend to be like birds?
Yes, in humans you cannot really compare them, except some people are like the bears when they start fasting because they come exhausted physically and emotionally. So they sleep during 3-4 days and then the energy comes back. And others who are active from the beginning. But we could say the humans don't live in a natural environment anymore. We are protected by houses, by heating, by clothing. And so we can fast in all the conditions. And fasting is very easy to do with exercise today, because we don't need to spare the calories. In the contrary, we would like to spend as much as possible, especially if the people are overweight. But let's go back to the effects of exercise in the fasting modus. First, you have this aspect that for us is so important, the soul and the inspiration. If you go to nature especially, and the nature is beautiful, like in Lake Constance or in the Mediterranean, in Marbella, like our other clinic, then you capture so many positive impressions. And the senses are very acute during the fasting, very sharp. So you smell, you see, you listen to birds and noises in the nature, and all that makes it boosts your mood, because you lack the pleasure of eating, so you need other pleasures. And walking in nature is a big pleasure. So for the inspirational part, walking is a very good thing. Physically, we come into the fasting metabolism. When you fast, you use fat, you burn your fat, and fat is a substance that needs a lot of oxygen, more than glucose. And when you move, walking, or even more when you're still more active, then you will absorb much more oxygen. 10 times, 20 times more oxygen, because you breathe quickly and very deeply. So you oxygenate your body, and it's like the effects of bellows on the fire.
So oxygen into the fire. So,
yes.
So if I want, let's say I want to fast according to the Buchinger Wilhelmi program, so I do a periodic long-term fast. How do I know how much activity I can do and what is recommended?
Basically, you can go from 2 hours of walk in nature with groups according to your capacity. This is very important not to exaggerate, because if not, you can fall in hypoglycemia and be very exhausted, and then you need to recover afterwards. But 2 hours of walk in nature, like I said, and then stretching, yoga, gymnastics, according to the necessity. If you have joint pains, if you have back pains, you need to reinforce your muscles. So the association of the two, and some people can do 6-8 hours of walk without problem if they are fit and young and active. This aspect of elimination must be underlined. You have 5 elimination systems, the lungs, and you stimulate them enormously by being active, like I said before, because you deepen your breath and accelerate it. Then you have also the digestive system, the liver and the intestine need to eliminate. And you stimulate then when you breathe, because the diaphragm is moving up and down, massaging your digestive organs. And this is a free massage everybody can have, and this is extremely stimulating for these organs who work a lot, especially the liver during the fasting. Then you have the skin that eliminates a lot of toxins, and when you are physically active, you sweat, and this stimulate this elimination. And finally, the last one are the kidneys. We recommend to drink a lot of water during the fasting, 2 liters at least, or 3. And then you drink a lot of water and you do exercise. So this activates the cleansing of the blood through the kidneys. So you see, you have first an activation of the fasting metabolism, and then an activation of the elimination systems. There is a more sophisticated effects of fasting and exercise, working in synergy, which have been now highlighted in the recent years. And this is the metabolic effect of the exercise resembling the one of fasting. So you accelerate the ketosis, which is the switch from glucose to ketones. And when you are in ketosis, your neurons are fed with ketone bodies, and these ketone bodies are an excellent, a super fuel for the neuron apparently. So you can enhance the plasticity of the neurons, so the communication from the neurons between each other. You can enhance also the regeneration potential, and you enhance the cognitive ability. This means you're more focused. Why? Because if you have no food in the evolution of mankind and animals, you need to find food. Because it's not like today, animals and humans were not overweight all the time. In the contrary, they needed. So fasting modus needs an activity and also good focus.
My question is, so we're talking specifically about the periodic long-term fasting. What about intermittent fasting and physical activity?
Yes, it's the same. For the switch, for the metabolic switch, if you do intermittent fasting, you want to do the switch. And then you switch back very quickly in intermittent fasting after 1 or 2 hours maybe or more, but short hours, short periods. If you do long-term fasting, you have the same effects of switch, but you maintain ketosis during days. And so the effect is always deeper. So you have a much, much more bigger effectiveness of the long-term fasting. The only thing is that for some people who are skinny, who are maybe too old or have a disease that weaken them too much, then long-term fasting is a too strong stimulus. So this is up to the medical doctor specialized in fasting to decide, is it better for you to do intermittent fasting for a long period? Or is it better to do maybe intermittent fasting and then the long-term fasting and alternate? So the different regimens of fasting are not opposite. They are just complementary.
Okay.
It would be interesting to know how you, as a very experienced faster, how do you feel about a physical exercise?
For me, physical activity in fasting is dependent, as you said, on the overall state of mind I arrive into a fasting. I sometimes feel that the physical activity can stimulate the switch from glucose to ketose, so from one system into the other. So once I am fully switched into a certain system, I tend to have a better physical activity than before. What happens also is the overall, if I have a certain fitness routine, a certain program I follow, I can usually keep up with approximately 60 to 70% of the activity. So if it's, for example, a workout I follow since a year and I do a fasting program, I tend to do the first 3 days, I do light activity. And then once I'm switched, once I'm in the program, I can restart to do my workout, and I'm always astonished how active I can be. And this is something that we hear a lot also from our patients that fast for the first time. It's fascinating to see how you can run on, or you can have a physical activity on the fasting metabolism. So I wouldn't recommend somebody to run a marathon, but if you're a marathon runner, you might be able to do more physical activity than others if you're fasting.
Thank you.
So I try to shortly summarize. So the physical activity and fasting go together, if you like, to as a sort of combination towards a positive result of a fasting
Synergy.
experience, as a synergetic experience. So a person that fasts and has no physical activity, that would be a problematic case.
Sometimes people cannot move because they have a problem, so they broke a leg or something like this, or they are cannot, and you still can fast, and the effects still come. But this energizing and boosting effect of the physical activity on both spiritual, psychological level and physical level makes that the fasting is less good. In extreme situation where you fast for real diseases which are already very severe or acute, then sometimes you want to spare the strength of a person. And so you can let them without activity still have an effect of fasting, but we prefer the synergy. And maybe I just want to add that we made a study with 16 healthy men doing 10 days of fasting, Buchinger Wilhelmi fasting program, and we noticed that their performance were enhanced. So they could, from day to day, walk better and perform better also on cardiological tests. And some of the muscles were stronger. For instance, the leg muscles were stronger. So we think that the normal sparing mechanism for lean body mass, for muscles and other, work much better when you accompany that with physical activity. You know, if you're not fasting, but you're a couch potato, you will lose your muscle mass too. So if you fast and lay down the whole day, this is probably not stimulating your lean body mass. On the contrary, the effects of both are really synergetic.
Oh, fascinating. So thank you very much for this understanding. I think we've learned a lot. Thank you very much. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Leave a comment so we can cover a certain topic maybe in another episode or give you a feedback. We would love for you to stay tuned for the next episodes. There's definitely lots of interesting topics to come. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you for joining. And for all of you, a wonderful day. And don't forget physical activity when you're fasting.